Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, traders. Can you hear me and see my screen? If you could just type yes in the questions. All right, good morning, everybody. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to the Bookmap Platform Details webinar. This is Bruce at Bookmap. Risk disclaimer: trading futures, equities, and digital currencies involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. For more information, go to bookmap.com. The product comes along with education. You get access to the Bookmap educational course. It is 4 parts. And then we back up and support that content in the educational course with the advanced order flow live webinars that follow this webinar at 11 a.m. Eastern. So every day you can watch in the live market what we cover in the education, so you can see it in the live market and you can learn from it. And what we do is we go through reading the order flow and starting to anticipate future price movement based on what we see. Okay, so let's jump into bookmap.com and just briefly go through the website. So if you scroll down here, an intro video about Bookmap, and then there's Bookmap for US equities. I'll go over that in just a second. A bit further down, connectivity. All right, so let me just define Bookmap. Bookmap is a visualization software trading platform. We are a platform just like some of the other ones that you see in this list, like NinjaTrader, TTX Pro, and Interactive Brokers Traders Workstation. We connect via the API of these 3 different platforms. However, we are a platform just as they are, so you can connect directly, and we prefer it if you connect directly through CQG, Rhythmic, Gain, IQ Feed, Transact, or Dev Experts. Okay, the Dev Experts is for that US equities NASDAQ total view. So we can go over some stocks if you have a question. All right, so why we prefer the direct connectivity is because then you can just bypass the API of another trading platform. Okay, so you just get your direct data without it going through anything else. Okay, let's go through the pricing. You can find it here. You can subscribe monthly or yearly. You subscribe yearly, you'll get a 20% discount. And there's 2 versions here, global and digital, as you can see. Now, the distinctions between these different versions here. Global, or I'm sorry, the digital is free here. It's only for one GDAX digital currency. Okay, it's real time. The data will be free as well as you get actually one US equities, but it's delayed data. Okay, so that's that DX feed that I mentioned earlier. And let's see, you also, you only get basic education and limited support. All right, now the Digital Plus is $37 per month, and it's for up to 20 digital currencies within the GDAX exchange. Okay, other exchanges for digital currencies will be offered soon or in the future here. Okay, you can also record and replay your data. You can also trade right from the Bookmap chart using the one-click trading into the GDAX exchange for the digital currencies. It comes along with the advanced education that I previously mentioned, and you also get full support. Okay, Bookmap Global includes everything in Digital Plus, as well as it offers connectivity to futures and US equities. Okay, so that's for the global basic here, or I'm just global, and then the Global Plus includes everything in global, but you also get the ability to trade right from the Bookmap chart, and you get this cache of proprietary indicators that we put together. Okay, so these indicators are specifically designed to understand order flow. They're not your typical, RSI or MACD type of indicators. Okay, large lot tracker. We're identifying larger players in the order book and how they might be either skewing the book or if they have intent to trade. Imbalance indicators, iceberg detector, again, looking for larger players that are using hidden orders instead of showing their liquidity in the limit order book. And then we also have a correlation tracker for looking at different markets. Okay, a few different things here. Just below the offerings, you can see that here, if you don't have data and you're new to futures, you can get a free. There's a few different data providers that offer a free trial for 2 weeks. All right, and if you can't decide which Bookmap plan is right for you, you can click here and see the breakdown of all the different features. Okay, if you have more questions, there's an FAQ section here as well. All right. Another thing too, like I haven't gone over this, our blog, you might want to click here. All sorts of new and interesting articles up here. So just talking about the markets and zero-sum game, for example, here. All sorts of very, very interesting articles around the around trading and not your typical type of you start to get into game theory and other things as well. Okay. All right. You can also follow us on Twitter at bookmap_pro. All right. And then let's see the YouTube page. Okay. You can subscribe to our YouTube page. And any new videos you'll get automatically. Just a brief overview here. I would suggest if you're new to Bookmap, just click on the playlist here for some of these videos. They're very short. And then the features and components to get more in depth about what Bookmap is. Okay, here's the Bookmap 7.0 overview if you want to watch that. And then these order flow video snippets. Now, these are the concepts of phenomena that we see in the order flow that Bookmap can visualize. Okay, this is where the rubber really meets the road. They're 2 to 3 minute videos. They're very concise. And these kinds of concepts we go over in detail in the advanced order flow webinars. All right. Okay, well, let's jump into Bookmap and take a look. We'll look at the S&P E-mini. It's been moving pretty well due to the recent volatility. So let's take a look here. And for those of you who are new to Bookmap, right? So let me define what you're seeing here in the chart, okay? Because it might look rather foreign. There's no bars here. There's no candlesticks. It might look like something very, very alien to you. Okay, so it's really not. This is the simplest data that's actually out there. There's no derivative of time, price, or volume here. In fact, let me turn off the VWAP that we have here, historical VWAP, and also turn off the POC. All right, and the 3 elements that we're looking at in this chart, okay, very important elements to understand. First one is just historical best bid and offer. There's no data aggregation here. It's just the historical best bid and offer plotted onto the chart, okay? And then you see all these dots here, okay? Well, these dots are the volume that traded on the historical best bid and offer. You see red dots and you see green dots. And I'll get into that in a minute. And then you see this colored heat map. All this colored heat map is a historical recording of the DOM, the depth of market. Okay, so high liquidity up here is painted bright orange. Very low liquidity is dark. It's this dark gray. So we can start to gauge where traders are lining up in the order book to deal in the auction. And that's all we're looking at here. Okay, so let's turn on a candlestick chart so we can relate a little bit better, and then I'll get into some of the details about the order flow. Okay, so we turn everything else off. We're looking at a candlestick chart. Okay, and let's attack this here because there's a lot of data here that is completely opaque to us, and this is a problem for us because we as traders need insightful data to make good, solid trading decisions. The problem here with this candlestick chart is it's aggregated data. It's 5-minute time period here. Okay, well, all we're looking at within that 5-minute time period are 4 data points: open, high, low, and close. That's it. What happened between this candlestick and this candlestick over here? We have no clue. Okay, we also have no clue about the microstructures. We're just seeing that how price moved within 5 minutes and then the next 5 minutes. There's going to be microstructural elements here that are going to give insight to areas broken and areas that are accepted above or below that structural element. You can kind of see it in the candlestick chart. For example, we broke out of this area here, okay, and accepted up here for about 20 minutes, but we're right back in the middle of the range now, okay? But that's where we're gonna really look into the detail here, because this microstructure is gonna give us insight to this breakout. And we're gonna see it down in this area here. Okay, I'm gonna turn it on, and we're also, how we're gonna understand it is by placing the volume on there as well. Okay, and then we'll place the heat map on there. But we'll start with the microstructure. Here's our microstructure, okay? So we came down in this area and kind of went back and forth for a bit, and this is where we broke the microstructure, right here, all right? And we went to the upside. Okay, same thing on the downside, as you can see here. Now, this is, you're gonna see the details here. So, for example, we broke down below this swing here, and note this cluster here. Okay, this cluster is giving us a lot of insight to starting to anticipate the potential for this move to the downside. Okay, because we're down below the low here, this swing, right? And we're going to see that right in this area here, we're probably going to see a lot of selling. Okay, that hit the bid pretty hard and brought price down. Okay. That's the next element, is the volume. We want to understand the context of the microstructure with volume, okay? That's how we're going to start to read the tape, okay? And understand the order flow. And here's our answer, okay? Here are the aggressive sell dots, the red pulling the market down. Here is the aggressive buying pulling the market up out of this structure here. Okay? And we can start to piece all of this together. For example, I can immediately look at this cluster of aggressive buying and selling over here, and I note that we have actually nice cluster volume at a high. Okay, and look at the retest here. Okay, there's very little volume that traded down here. It traded down here quickly and came right back up into this cluster. This is looking good for the potential for upside movement. Okay, if it was going to trend to the downside, you would see bigger cluster of volume down at the lows, and you would see this move here come at least down to the low and probably go back and forth for a while. It didn't do that. This is giving us a lot of insight here to at least coming back up and testing the top of this range. Okay, and this is the process that we go through in detail in the advanced order flow webinar. Okay, so let me go in here and just define what you're looking at in terms of these two elements, and then we're going to turn on the heat map. Okay, so we're just going to zoom in here. Just click on the hand tool and then zoom in quickly with your center mouse wheel. Okay, so here are our very simple two elements. Okay, historical best offer or best ask is the red line. Okay, best bid is the green line. Okay, now we see these dots that occur here on the best bid or offer. These are market sell and buy orders. Okay, this is the aggressor classification of volume, and it's important to understand that what is defined here with these dots. Okay, we define it this way. Most platforms do as well, but it's important to understand the distinction here. Okay, so the best bid and offer going back and forth here, and then someone here, they hit the market sell button. Okay, so they took liquidity off of the best bid, and the transaction is painted here with a dot, a red dot. So the red dot is an aggressive market sell, Why aggressive? Because they crossed the spread. They didn't provide liquidity, they took liquidity. They wanted in the market at immediately, and that's aggressive. Okay, you can see the green dots, those are aggressive market buys. And then you can see these pie displays here. Okay, well, let's zoom into one of those here because this is both buying and selling. And it was a cluster that happened so quickly that we have to display it as a big dot and an overall delta here to show that there was a little bit more selling than buying here. Okay, same with this dot. Well, let's zoom into this cluster and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, and I want to show you here because this is important. As we continue to zoom in, note how we are handling all of this data. We are splitting up that big dot into small, several small dots here. Okay, and we're starting to understand exactly what traded here. We're down at microsecond level. We're down at millions of seconds. We can continue on and we can look at billions of seconds here. Okay, this is software that, until recently, basically only institutions had access to this. Starting to understand these areas here in detail, right? Look at these little clusters of selling. Okay, so probably algorithmic activity. Someone came in, the algo is hitting the bid, a pause, hits the bid, hits the bid, hits the bid, and look at the spacing of it. Okay, pretty uniform here. Okay, that's starting to identify some of the patterns here that are occurring. And now we don't trade at these levels, right? But unless you're trading algorithmically, then you want to see how your algo is performing. You've got everything here. Every single market event is recorded. This is a key in Bookmap because we do not aggregate the data. Okay, and that's a problem with other platforms. Okay, you're getting the raw data here, but note how as I zoom back out, we're consolidating this into a bigger red dot. Okay, so we're giving you the overall, but and I zoom back in, we're still giving you all of the data here. It's all there. If you want to understand and hover over each dot, it will tell you precisely what that volume is. Okay, volume of 1, volume of 1. This one was for a volume of 4. Okay, if I zoom back out, hover over this dot, you can see this is for a volume overall of 85. You get the date, the time, the liquidity on the bid, and then the volume. Okay, and I continue to zoom out, and at a certain point, we're going to just graphically aggregate all of that together into a bigger dot. Okay, but it's just graphically done. All the data is still there. Okay, so that's what we're looking at in Bookmap, and it's important to know that because, for example, you may be looking at your order flow on a footprint chart. Okay, and there are advantages of looking at this at Bookmap. Huge advantages. Number one is look at the speed here. You're not going to see the speed here in your footprint chart. Okay, we can understand that all of a sudden some very quick buying came in and lifted the offer up above this little structural area here. Okay, you're just going to see it aggregate very quickly and within a bar on your footprint chart. Okay, another aspect is again comparing it to other microstructural areas. Okay, footprint chart can't do that. It's because it's going to be aggregated within some sort of bar. Okay, so this is the story of really what occurred here. Price went sideways for a bit here. They lifted the offer pretty quickly, and it accepted up into this little micro range. Okay, it tested back down to the low again. Okay, and it rejected down here. Okay, it came right back up and tested back into this cluster. Okay, that was the cluster that we're looking at here. Let me bring down the dot size a little bit. And now we know that there is a lot of buying up here and there's a lot of interest and there's not much interest down here. Okay, so you can get in, for example, all sorts of strategies looking for anticipating price movement at least back up into the top of this range. Okay, now volume is great, microstructure is great, but we still need to know one thing here. Let's take the candles off. What about the auction? Okay, where are they bidding and offering? This is a whole nother side that other platforms don't address whatsoever, and that is the dome. Right now, I should back up. I'm sorry. They may address the dome, but this is what it will look like here. So let's zoom in here, go to the current market, and everything to the right of this vertical white line here is current data. Okay, this is the live market. This is your best bid and offer right now, and this number is the last traded volume. Okay, here's your price ladder, and then here's your dome in Bookmap. Okay, the COB column here. All right, so here's your depth of market on the offer, and then here's your depth of market on the bid down here. Okay, these are contracts, traders lined up to provide liquidity at these very specific price levels. Okay, the dome is great. It's great to understand where there's supply. For example, here at 75. Okay, we know precisely with the numeric value here in any other dome, 725 contracts or so. Okay, and here it is in Bookmap painted graphically. That's what we do. We take this data here in the dome and we paint it graphically. So you're going to note when these numbers change, you're going to see the heat map change. Okay, but we need to wait for a more significant change here. Let's see if this guy is going to pull or add at 75, or maybe they start to add in down here. Okay, we're going to see a change here pretty quickly. Okay, this guy pulled down here at 72. Okay, here they're just adding in right there. Okay, so you saw that go yellow and kind of light blue. Okay, and then they pulled that liquidity. That's what this it was recorded here. We take all that data and record it and place it onto this chart. So we can answer some questions here about this liquidity. Okay, we came down into this area and they were showing some interest. Okay, that they want to be buyers here, and then they pulled really quickly. Okay, so did they really want to buy here? And the answer is no, because otherwise they'd stay in the book. Okay, so we can start to understand the auction, not only the current auction, but the historical auction. So there was interest here for a brief moment, okay, and then that was it, right? So where's the interest now? Well, you can see there's interest down here at 70. Now the heat map just changed in color because I zoomed out. Okay, when I zoom out, we're taking the largest value in here in this viewable range, and then we'll paint that bright yellow and then scale everything toward it. Okay, so we came down into this area here, and actually down here, it looks like some of this traded here. Okay, and indeed it did. Here you can see them hitting the bid into this high liquidity here. Okay. There were how many contracts here? 487 contracts here. Okay, we can use the hover over tool, and we can understand that we traded into that area. Here's the transactions right into that high liquidity. Okay, at this point here, 101 of those 487 have traded. Okay, as we go forward, 190 of them traded. So was this real liquidity, or was this pulled or fake, or didn't have the intent? And the answer is, in this case, it's kind of both, because they did stay in here and then they pulled. All right, and we want to note that. All right, we want to know if these guys mean business here. It's going to give us a lot of insight. Okay, now we're continuing to trend lower. And trade into more liquidity down here. And look at these guys here. Okay, they have no intent to trade. They start pulling before price gets down there, and it starts to trade into here. And they didn't want any part of that. Okay, so we continue lower, searching for more liquidity as sellers continue to hit the bid. Okay, so we're answering the question now. A lot of traders will say, well, I don't really look at the dome because all of that liquidity is fake anyway, and it's all algos, and I can't find it or control it or understand it. Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's pretty true, that you won't be able to see it in the numeric values here, because it happens so quickly, right? but we just made a distinction. Okay? We just saw some of that liquidity actually traded. Okay, so we answered the question. So you can use this DOM, and you can understand this liquidity if it's real or fake and its intent in the auction. And not only can we understand it for the current market, but we can zoom out and we can start to piece it together on much higher time frames. Okay, look at all the liquidity up here. Look at all the sellers up here at 27.90 to 93 basically. We tested into this level here around 27.90, and the buyers didn't want any part of this. Okay, they didn't want to take this on. The sellers come in and rotate lower, and they start hitting the bid pretty hard, and that is why we are trending lower. And we are searching for more liquidity. Okay, so looks like you know some of these areas are starting to get filled a little bit, but now we can start to, with the basics, covering these basics here, now we can start to really dive into understanding what's going on in the auction. So for example, we came down into this area here. It looks like a lot of it traded. We came through it, but you can see the bounce, okay? And then note their behavior historically here, and this is key to understand. They're on the offer now, again, here, and very aggressively down here at 75. And where are the buyers? They don't want any part of this. Okay, if the buyers don't want part of this, we're going to find sellers. They're going to hit the bid. We're going to go lower until we find more liquidity. And that's what occurred here. And this is not necessarily a flip of the book. That's more of a disruptive practice that we have a video for if you guys want to check it out on one of those video snippets. But the important thing to understand was they were here on the bid, and now they flipped to the other side on the offer here to initially at 78, but even more aggressively here at 75. Okay, so now we're really starting to understand the auction and these levels where they're providing liquidity and if they have intent to trade there or not. Okay. And otherwise, you know, these areas, the market needs liquidity, so the market trades toward those areas. All right, and so we're making, or we're understanding the auction, and we're understanding the volume trading within the microstructure. So we're starting to understand who's in control. Okay, and look at this downtrending market. This is another thing. We go over this in the live order flow webinars, but this is more of the simplistic stuff here. So we'll cover it in the platform details webinar. In a trending market, this is very typical. Okay, what you're going to see in a trending market for the most part is more volume at lower lows. When you get these retracements back up into these areas, you usually find there is it's a lower high. And basically the market has no interest in trading up there. You get these kind of spikes up and you see exhaustion on the buy side, and it rotates back down into these clusters and you get price discovery to the downside. Okay, and then that just continues. All right, so anyway, that's a trending market and order flow within a trend, targeting high liquidity here on the bid in these areas. Okay, look at these guys here. We're starting to see maybe a distinction here. We're still in a downtrend. Okay, here we are. But we're starting to test that trend line, and we're starting to see maybe some clusters of volume up here this is more buying up at this higher area. Okay, so we're just noting that. I'm still looking for, still bearish, still looking for it to trade down into this area here. But note there in the order book here that note how they're bidding it up in these areas here too. Okay, so that's different as well. Okay, so we might start to see a bit of a slowdown in this trend. Okay, and there's all sorts of ways of looking at that, and we'll continue on in the next webinar. Abel, let me answer your question. Values on the horizontal bar, blue, white, specific value. tiered at specific value settings. Well, these values here are, let's just zoom in again. Okay, so very quickly, because I've got to jump to the next webinar. This is the liquidity at this level, so 72, okay? And here it represents 396 contracts, 422 contracts now. So it just got brighter. That's what it represents. As I zoom out, you're going to see that we're going to take all of that data here, okay? And now it's kind of not as bright at all, right? Well, it's because of reference to this liquidity in the market, okay? Much higher liquidity. So you have a reference of it, all right? And it also starts to we can start to piece together the zone, the area. Okay, are they bidding above or below? Are they front running these guys? These are all questions that we can answer just by looking at the heat map. Okay, so maybe starting to see that trend reversal as we were noting. Okay, so now we broke the structure here. We're making a higher high. We broke our trend line. They were bidding up in this area here. We're piecing it all together. All right, so anyway, I'll leave you with that. I've got to go. We will catch up with you guys tomorrow. All right, take care.